we've been on the third slide for like 30 minutes.
Yeah. So we kind of already talked about tire pressure, but I'm sure you probably know this since you know how much your tire is supposed to have. But there's always in your door, on the door jamb, there's always like this sticker that has all these specs for your tires. It also tells you how much you need to have in there. And if you're filling it up at your, gas station, it shows you the numbers as well. So it kind of tells you when your tires is there because again, you don't want your tire pressure too low, you don't want it too high. You ever seen people with like little bubbles on their tire? Yeah, you don't put too much tire in there or their tire bag. But
so when you do go and put pressure in your tire, can you release air out of it too?
Yes.
So you just go up to the nozzle and instead of turning it on and putting air into it, you just put it on and it'll start shooting air out the other way.
Okay, but if I want the air to go into my tire, I need to push it in as much as possible.
Yes.
And I shouldn't hear.
If you're hearing it, it's coming out. It's not sealed.
Okay.
So you're pushing it all the way on so that it kind of seals. I should have went closer with the picture, but it kind of seals over that stem.
Okay.
And so then no air. If you're hearing sounds, then you're letting air out. It's not
Okay.
going in.
We could do a live demonstration on the Camaro outside.
Do you have a
Yes.
do you have a tire gauge?
He just had to go there.
Do I have a tire
Gauge?
This right
in
here.
my car? No.
Oh,
I
in
don't
your
have
car.
one.
You have one in your
Guess
car.
what? Now
It's
you
the old
do.
school.
Now
Are you giving that away?
he got one.
Ask him, his forethought.
He came prepared, y'all.
I'll tell you.
You got one now, Tony.
Yep.
Courtesy
So
of
this is-
Gethsemane Baptist.
You should do a model.
So this is how you can know how much needs to go in your car to keep your vehicle safe. So like I said, you want your vehicles to have the same pressure. It always depends on the vehicle, whether it's a car, obviously a truck's gonna need a little more, but this is the quickest way to get it. And it is really good to make sure you checking this frequently, especially like I mentioned earlier in the colder months where air can kind of come out, making sure you have your tire pressure because you don't want to then, this is preventative, because you don't want to then be on the side of the road with a flat tire because you didn't check it for 2 months and air was slowly leaking out of it. Right?
Are the caps very important?
They help keep the air
Yeah.
in the wall,
But it's not like,
gonna
it's
be-
not do or
It's not gonna
die.
be actively going.
Yeah, you don't
with
take it
the
off and
caps
you
on.
lost all your air. You don't worry. I know people be taking them little caps off. And I know they do. I know they be going missing. So yeah, it's not like, oh man, all my air is gonna come out if you lost it. I would say eventually get a new one and put it on there, and they're really cheap for
You
the
can just
basic
buy it on
little black
Amazon
ones.
real cheap.
Yeah.
So what
I
do you
mean,
think?
they're $1.99
At like
at the
Amazon,
store.
yeah,
So, yeah,
Amazon.
they're really cheap.
Really, what can happen? The reason for the cap is not necessarily because you want to lose air just like passively. The reason for the caps is because debris and dirt can get there the same way you compress it when you want to get air out. If you get a rock or something stuck in there, it'll do the same thing, and then you'll have a slow leak without even knowing. So the cap keeps stuff from getting inside there.
All right, next, tire tread, which is extremely important. You may or not have heard the penny trick. So if you have a penny, you put it in the grooves of the tire. And if the head is covered or like halfway where you can see right there, then it's good. But as it goes down, that helps you to know I need to replace my tires soon. My tread is going down. This is the easiest way, so you don't gotta be this big guru on tire tread. Everybody got a penny. You can put it in the tire and kind of see your levels. But it's super important to make sure that you have enough tread on your tires because the last thing you want is to be caught in the rain, the snow, any of those conditions, and you got bald tires because that is just an accident waiting to happen.
Good information.
Kind of touched on this, but some helpful items to keep in your car. So a portable tire inflator. I did bring one with me. I know you got one that you're gonna give away. So this is an example of one. It can plug into your cigarette lighter, and then you just, same way, you put it on to the stem, and you can fill up your tire. But I always say keep one in the car. You never know where you're gonna be when your air starts to go low, and at least, even if it is a leak in the car, sometimes this can be enough just to help you get to a gas station before it goes completely flat, or at least just get somewhere safe. The next is jumper cables or a jump box. So ladies that added the jump box, I personally have both, but I prefer the jump box because I've been in situations where my battery has died and I'm by myself, and it can be uncomfortable having to like walk around and ask random people, can you please come help me jump my car? Especially for safety reasons, because I've had this happen and it's like nighttime or middle of the day, whatever. So I always personally like a jump box because then I always know that I can jump my car by myself and I don't have to go ask a stranger or leave my car or walk wherever to get my car jumped. Now obviously they are a little pricier than jumper cables. So at minimum have some jumper cables in your car and then you can find somebody to help you jump the car. For jumper cables and jump box, it's good that when you buy it to make sure you read the labels because based on the type of car that you have, it's going to determine which one you buy. Can't have a V8 and buying like some weak jumper cables because it's just not going to work. Same with a jump box, it's not going to work. Go ahead.
I just want to know, does everybody in here know how to connect the jumper cables? Does everybody didn't know that?
That's what we're going to say next.
I just wanted to.
You guys do? Yes?
No,
Should I not go through it?
She wants to know.
Okay, I should have put a picture
So
so that I can demonstrate.
Oh, we
You
got
can vision, or I could probably look.
We have some.
Oh, that's it. You want it?
Yeah.
You want it?
Get the
Yeah.
just got it out.
I could just make this look like the battery.
Also, while he's getting those, my suggestion to everybody, lady or male, they make a combination jump box and air compressor.
Yeah,
so,
they do.
And they make them where they're battery operated, so you basically charge it and then it can just sit in your car. I would take it out when it's really
That's
cold
another
over like a long
advance.
period of time because the cold will
That's
drain the
another
battery.
advance.
But in general, you just leave it in your car, and that way your car doesn't have to be on or whatever for you to both jump your car and inflate your tire. So yeah, it's a little bit more money, but honestly, Amazon, you can get a really good one for under $100, and I'm telling you, it'll pay off over time.
Yeah, and I have two jump boxes. I have a small one, it's like a flashlight, and it has the cables. It's strong enough to jump like my Fox body that don't got a whole lot of electronics and stuff, and it's small and portable. Like I can put it in my bag, put it right in the trunk. But then like my Jeep, I have more of a like big jump box, but you might, like I said, read the specs on it to know. And even in the store when you're buying it, you can always ask one of the associates in there and they'll even explain it to make sure you got the right one.
All right, so for jumper cables, it's very simplistic, but if you do it wrong, it can go very bad. Very, very bad.
Friday?
All right, so if you had, let's say, 2 cars there, and you go to your first car, it's always black is negative. You'll see it on the battery. Generally, that negative symbol will even be black, and the plus symbol will be red on top of battery. But if it's not, red is always positive, black is always negative, and just simply put the red to your positive and then to your negative and do it to the other car and leave it probably for a few seconds running with the car that's going to charge the dead car, running for a little bit to give it some extra power. And then besides that, you should be able to fully start your vehicle. Now, if you turn them around and go the other way, that can either blow out your ECU, MCU, it can destroy the battery, it can also blow out fuses. It can basically just, your whole electrical system is at risk if you swap it and do it the other way. So just always black on negative, red on positive.
I don't know why, I never remember which one goes first though, the cars. So which one do you plug up first? It doesn't matter.
And should they both be off first?
Yeah.
Either way, once you do touch the cords to the car, there will be electric currents going through it if the car is off or not. The only difference is that you'll be having 14 amps coming from, or 14 volts coming from the battery when the car is running compared to 12 volts when the car is not running. Because the alternator is giving the battery more power once the car is actually running. Yes.
Can you specify the order in which you should connect your cables?
Oh, like from like negative, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, usually I would start on a dead vehicle, generally that has zero power coming from it, so if I'm walking to the next vehicle, it doesn't start sparking or wrong. But I always go from negative to positive. I mean, that's just what I know from my job. Now I know if you do it the other way around, it's not gonna blow things up, but I just know that that there are some negatives behind it, but it's nothing's gonna get damaged at all. No.
Yeah, and one thing to remember too, when you're taking it out the package and you're getting ready to do it, make sure nothing's touching. Obviously, if you're putting it on the dead vehicle first, less of electric current that's coming through it. But I always say just make sure it's not touching. The metal's not touching. You go up, you're putting it on there. You go on to the other one, putting it on there. But if they're touching and something happens, it's just more chances of other things. So yeah, making sure you separate it, putting it on. You say the dead vehicle first, negative, then positive, then going over to the other vehicle, negative, positive. Like you said, you're gonna let it sit. Sometimes if the car is like super dead, you might rev the car that's giving it the charge just to boost up the current. Sometimes it's just gotta sit for a little bit, depending on how dead your car is. And you can always tell how dead your car is if you have any power to the car. Sometimes the radio stuff will come on, but it just won't start. Sometimes nothing is coming on the car. But that even goes even further. Like if you're trying to jump the car and sorry, I'm trying to make sure I keep this knowledge at like base level, but bless you. But even with starting the car when you're jumping it, if you're not hearing the car trying to turn over, and I don't know if you guys know what that sounds like. It may sound like something. No, it might sound like something's trying to engage.
You're starting to make a nice little
Yeah, there you go.
type noise, almost like your stove is turning on at home, like that little connection, that spark, which is what it. Well, yeah, if you have a very good spark
No, I
system.
don't make
Right,
sense.
right, yeah.
It will turn on almost immediately.
That's our partners.
So,
But
a
it's-
quick question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
So, when you're doing your jumper cables, I know they recommend, at least lately, and I don't remember which one is for, it must be for the car that has the power. They say to put it, the negative to a ground, right?
Now you can do that, but it's not gonna. I mean, the negative is the ground. It's not gonna like affect it by putting it directly to the ground compared to the negative. It's just gonna be the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Some vehicles.
right, because I know they connect, some people, like you were saying, they connect all four to the terminals on the battery.
Mhm.
But a lot of times they recommend now
Brown.
to put a ground piece of metal that's not near the fan blade or whatever to the car, I think that has the power that's coming back, so that you have a ground that's not actually on the battery itself, but it's on a piece of metal on the car.
But you also have some instances, depending on how the car's designed, you might not even have access to the negative terminal. Like,
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was gonna
Yes.
say. Sometimes you have to do that because the batteries are in like the most, in the trunk, or
The
like
trunk,
my
under
Jeep
your
is under
passenger
the
seat.
seat,
Or like my Focus, where it's underneath the frickin'.
So they have a ground. They have a ground under the hood
Right,
for it
right.
that you would put it on instead. But I have heard that again for these newer cars, because some newer cars, their batteries are a little more sensitive, and so they are more likely to have issues where you could potentially fry the ECU. I don't know, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know all of the facts and research to that. There are people that'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not doing it because I don't want to mess it up. But I have heard that for some newer vehicles.
No, I will say, just because I've worked with batteries for at least the last 3 years of my life, working at Advanced Auto Parts, I do know a decent amount about the starting systems. And like, what was your song about the battery?
He said about putting the ground, like not connecting it directly to
Oh, yeah. For the new batteries. Those are AGM batteries, and
Yes.
those are anti-glass mat batteries. Those ones, they actually can take more punishment. They're not more fragile. They can take more punishment and more higher electrical outloads than your traditional standard liquid battery. So that one, you wouldn't need to do it on the body or anything like that, because those batteries are meant to be able to handle power outloads, if you have like Apple CarPlay, electric seats, electric safety features, you have all those electric things and your car is made from like 2016 and onward, generally, I'm always going to be suggesting get an AGM battery. It is the most expensive, but you won't be breaking down within a year and a half off a normal battery because a normal battery just won't support the higher technology that all these new cars have. So no, an AGM battery, the new batteries, they can handle a lot more than older batteries.
And the warranty is longer.
Yeah.
How long do these batteries typically last?
3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
3 to 5 years if you get a average good battery, not the cheapest one, but not the most expensive one. If you're getting like, let's say you go to
The ones that
AutoZone
come
or
with your
Advanced
car.
Auto Parts, like our gold ones, we have silver, gold, platinums, and if more expensive, like that middleman, that is your average battery. That middleman will at least go for 3 to 5 years, just as long as you're not putting it on a car that calls for a higher electrical outload like an AGM battery would need for that newer vehicle. But as long as it's not a situation like that, 3 to 5 years. The cheaper batteries, like a Walmart or Costco battery, you can see those going 1.5 years to 2 years.
So, and I know you said one that may have came with the car. The one thing I always say, and we can get into depth about looking at cars, but all batteries have like a little time stamp on it. And so I always say to look at it because sometimes the dealerships will be like, oh yeah, we just put that battery in there. And the date then said like 2020 and it's now, and then you wondering why your battery died 6 months after buying the car and it's like something wrong with it. So sometimes it's not brand new, but if your battery isn't lasting the average time it's supposed to, that means that something else is going on with the car. Something is draining the battery, whether your alternator is going bad, maybe, like he said, the battery that's in there wasn't meant to be able to handle the amount of electrical output that's going in there. So that means there's something else going on if your batteries are constantly dying really fast. And the first go-to is always the alternator, which you can also get that checked at like Advanced or AutoZone. They can also check.
Completely free check-in for your starter, alternator, and battery starting system. Never gonna charge you or anything like that for that. And we will go in depth on the numbers and explain to you what could possibly be the issue, because our machine will maybe say like, oh, charge the battery, it'll be fine, but realistically, that battery can't be charged based off the numbers. So we will always go into explanation and explain what could actually be wrong with your starting system.
And they'll charge your battery too for you.
For free.
Yeah, for free. Sometimes it's a couple hours, sometimes it's a 24-hour charge. And if it's still doing that, especially if you bought it from them, that's a part of the warranty. If it's still doing that, they'll replace it for free if it's still under warranty. I'm gonna go her first and then
Should you keep the cables around your battery clean?
Yes, so we're gonna talk about that in a second too. But yes, you wanna make sure you're keeping it clean from corrosion, yeah. Go ahead.
You have a battery that if you bought the car in 2015, but your battery, and you never had to change the battery, is it good or bad?
No, that is good.
That's
Okay,
good.
so
Yeah, that's good.
I've dealt with this. I've dealt with. You are very lucky. I've dealt with this a lot. When it comes to manufacturer OEM original batteries that came with the car from the original time they made the vehicle, for some reason I do not know why. I can't explain it, but those batteries on average last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And every single secondhand company, like Advanced Auto Parts, AutoZone, everybody, or even Interstate, AAA, all of our batteries are all the same lifespan, which is nowhere near 10 years. So I don't know what they do with the manufacturer, but generally your manufacturer battery will last much, much longer than your average secondhand battery, or like buying it at a store would normally. It'd be 5 to 10 years. So yeah, if it's been lasting since 2015, I just be happy with it. Don't question it and keep going.
Yes, I was like, as long as it's working good, just let it go. The other thing, the other thing that you want to make sure that you have in your car is your owner manual that comes with the car. Sometimes when you're buying a used car, it might be missing, but you can find these online. It's really, really good to read through your owner's manual and get familiar with your vehicle. A lot of owner manuals it's not on the cars nowadays, but like older cars, they would even put in there like DIY instructions of how to do stuff yourself on the car. But it tells you every spec. So it tells you about your tires, it tells you about oil changes, it tells you about like where this is at, where's my filter at, how can I find this? It'll give you literally all the information on your vehicle to give you basic knowledge for your car. So that's something to make sure you have in your car if it's not in there.
And while you're on that, I know it also too tells you suggested things like during tune-ups.
Yep. So yes.
Which I would love for us to talk to too about, like, how do you know like when one of your plugs need to be changed? And although it's recommended, my plug might still be good, you know, during the time.
So the owner manuals do give like a recommendation for each mileage. It'll give you like a list of things that need to be replaced. I always say though, even at that time period, if nothing's wrong, I still go through that list and I'll just check where that item is. Like, is this okay? Does that look low? Because it isn't average, because there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like, is this person like dogging the car out when they hit 10K miles? Because I've seen people's motor go on a vehicle that might have 10K miles and somebody's who lasts to 300,000 miles. So there's a lot of factors, but I always say when they give their recommendations of stuff to check at each mileage, to just go in and see where that stuff is. Like, is my quality okay? To the best of your knowledge. But it does help you to stay on alert of what could potentially be coming. So that's why I said, even if you're reading it, just so you have the knowledge, you may not be fixing it, but you have the knowledge to know, all right, my vehicle's at this mileage. This might be something I should start saving for because I might have to fix this, or maybe I should check this because that might happen, like my brakes. I know I replaced it here. It says that around this mileage, I might have to replace it again. So let me just check, because you can look at your brake pads and see how low they're getting, or, you know, your oil change. You know, they give you a sticker that tells you, but it's like, hey, I know it said I need to get an oil change every so miles. Let me go in and check to see where my levels are. So like you said, even if it's not bad, I use it as like a reference point of things that I should make sure I'm checking.
So we're about to hit y'all with the Apollo music when your act starts going on.
Well, it's because we're getting a lot of questions.
I know.
All right, we're gonna try to move through this real quick, and then we'll do Q&A.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, like, yes, I think we'll do a Q&A.
We're almost done.
Yeah, we'll do a
actually.
Q&A. Yeah. So the paper that she had a great idea of handing out, we should do it at the beginning. Write down any questions you have, and we'll do a question and answer at the end.
Yeah.
So we can get through her points again, because we still have him before me, and we want to try to hit close to 3 o'clock. Anybody that believes that doesn't know me very good.
So just to finish going through this, we talked about the scanner, having an emergency kit that might have like a flashlight, it might have flares, yes. Spare tire, every vehicle don't have one in it, but it's really good to have a spare tire in your vehicle, so if you call AAA, they can put the tire on if you got a tire. Or having at least a tire patch kit in your car so you can just patch up a hole to get to where you gotta go.
Your spare tire, should you just go ahead and just get an extra real tire and leave it in your car instead of your
That's preference. I do.
donut?
I like an actual tire in my car, not a donut. But that's because I have preference to like all-wheel drive cars. And a donut, that's only getting me to where I gotta go to put the tire on. So to me, it's pointless. But if that's what you have, I think that's better than nothing, because it gets you moving and it gets you where you're going. But if you can afford a real tire, I would say get it, but it is pricier because, like I said, newer cars do not come with a lot of these.
Will the real tire too fit in the same place with the donut tire?
Depends on the car.
Okay.
Depends on the car.
Depends on the car, depends on the type of donut, 'cause
Yeah.
there's smaller donuts, there's full-size donuts, and then if you have the option.
Yeah, so it just depends on the car and your preference. I think the donut though can fit in just about every car. A full-size tire ain't gonna fit in every car. So it really just depends. But making sure you have at least something, because I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I'm gonna just call AAA pull up, be like, where your tire at? And they're like, I don't got one. I thought y'all was bringing something. So now we just sitting here looking stupid. So have something with you to be able to swap the tire.
Let me interject something. They're making tires today, right? That you can drive on X number of
Fix the
miles.
flats in them too. Yeah, run flats. Yeah, run flats.
You got that little thing you can take out to put on there for the air.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you can drive to a safe place.
Yep. that's what I was gonna mention. Some cars don't have spares anymore because they have that.
And, you know, some cars, these new luxurious cars today,
Yeah.
you don't need a spare.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. The new cars.
It'll cost you though.
They have. Yep. They don't. They do the run flats instead of a spare tire. And like I said, it's
If you drive
different.
a Volkswagen, you might need one.
Yeah, that's what I said. It depends on your car, but as long as you got something to get you to where you gotta go.
Hey, Bill, we know.
Alright, so last slide. Just a couple of key things that we talked about for routine maintenance, so making sure that these things are being checked. So we talked about checking your tires, so pressure, tread, changing your oil and filter on schedule. So that doesn't mean doing it yourself. You could take it somewhere, but when they give you a sticker or tell you when you need to come back, please come back when they tell you to come back. I know that there's times where maybe we're busy, our money's low. At the bare minimum, if you can't go back the day you're supposed to, check your fluid. If it's low, top it off with some extra, maybe like a quart of oil in the car, and to get you to when you get it done. But please don't miss oil changes, because that's how you lose a motor. Replacing your air filter. Your manual is going to tell you where it's at. Sometimes it's below, behind the glove box. Sometimes it's in your engine bay. Like, knowing where that is and changing that. Inspecting all your fluids like we talked about. Examining your belts and hoses. So you don't need to know everything, but if you're looking in your engine bay, you see the timing belt, you see the hose that's going to your radiator. Is my hose looking kind of dry? Is it cracking? Is there a hole in it? Does the belt look like it's starting to rot or crack? Stuff that you can notice now before the belt just pops or the hose breaks off and now you have a bigger issue. So making sure we're checking that. Replacing your wiper blades. So if the stuff is raining and it ain't cleaning, we need to get new wiper blades. And again, Advance, AutoZone, they will replace them for free if you buy them from them. Removing any battery corrosion. So like you asked earlier, if you're checking your batteries and you see like some corrosion on it, you could take like a little wire brush and clean it off so that way you know the connection stays good. Listen and feel for any brake issues. So if you know that it's getting a little harder to hit your brake or you're starting to hear squeaking, pay attention to those. And also your fuel system cleaner, which he had mentioned earlier, with additives for the car. Anything you want to add?
Just two more things real quick. For the brakes, if it's a high-pitched squeal, that means that your brakes are going to get needed to be changed soon. That's coming up, but it is very, very low because that is a little warning wire. There's this little metal thing that sticks out and will start scraping against the rotor, and that just lets you know, hey, they're low. If you start to hear it as a deeper metal on metal grinding noise, that means the pad is gone. That means the pad is nothing. That means that little high pitch. If you don't hear that high pitched noise, that means it's so low that the thing got ripped off. Yeah. It's not even on the pad anymore. So that means take it in immediately. And if you ever feel any wobbling when you're braking in the steering wheel, in the pedals, any sort of shakiness when braking, that means you have a warped rotor, which is just a uneven, not smooth surface. It's uneven, and it's going to be going around and around and hitting a little jump and make it a wobbly ride.
Yep, and you can actually look at your brake pads. Obviously, you would need to know maybe the size of where it started, but you can look in your wheel. You can look on the caliper that's right there where your brake pad is, and you can actually see the thickness of the brake pads, and you can see if it's starting to get low. So if you're hearing the sound, you can look at it. It's not, you don't have to have a lot of knowledge to tell that, oh, it's a problem and this is really, really low.
If there's rust on your rotor, is that a bad thing?
No. Yeah. That's why I mentioned earlier.
There can be something that looks like rust. Look like rust. And like right after I wash my car, which I drive my car every day, I'll wash my car and clean everything, clean the wheels. I'll get in my car, look down my rotor, and it wasn't like that as I was washing it, but it left behind a little orangish looking thing. That'll go away once you hit your brakes for the first time. It'll be gone.
So that's why I mentioned earlier when you're testing it, sometimes you may hear sounds just because maybe the car was sitting for a while and it's rained and just the water building, like you said, the orange stuff on it, and it'll go away. Like you'll eventually kind of burn it off and it's fine.
Any other questions?
Good job.
This was
Yeah, need that slide.
I know.
Vince.
Don't forget,
All right.
we're outside of.
We gonna help you, don't worry. Huh?
Like 10-minute break?
No quick recess, 5.
We'll take a 5.
Quick 5.
Take a 5.
Take
Take
5.
5. Yeah, so the last portion,
Meantime, I'm gonna pass these out, I'm gonna leave them in front where y'all sitting at.
All right, thanks.
the last 2 portions.
Yeah, I was gonna
I'll just cover some gaps that.